Some say it's all about 1925 and beyond. The podcast. KC 100 year celebration with Pete A. Kennedy and Marlon A. Kennedy.
Welcome everyone to the 1925 and Beyond podcast. I'm your host Pete A. Kennedy and I'm here with my brother co-host Marlon A. Kennedy. Just to let you know, I'm a KC old boy and the time that I went to the school was between the years of 1992 to 1995. Played Colts. I was a part of the 1993-94 Colts team where we lost in 93 but won in 94. And after that played Manning Cup in 1995. So I'm original Kingston College old boy, and I'm excited for this episode that we have a special guest today. And I'll turn it over to my co-host, Big Brother.
Hi, everybody, and welcome. My name is Marlon Kennedy. I'm more original than Pete at KC. I went to KC from 1986 to 1993, and I played all levels of cricket for Kingston College before graduating from KC. So welcome, and we're looking forward to our guest today. Our guest today is Ms Helen Douglas, who's one of our most sought-after personalities, a stalwart from the administrative and also from the academic perspective at KC. So, Madam Douglas, welcome. How are you doing?
Thank you. I'm fine, thank you. And
it's good to have you.
Yes,
good to have you. Appreciate you. All right, so, Madam Douglas, we want to kickstart. A lot of us are familiar with your time at KC, but a lot of us know nothing about Madam Douglas prior to KC. So just ask you to just tell us that story, please.
Prior to KC?
Yes.
Okay, well, I went to St. Andrew High School and from there to university. And then when I left school, when I was about to leave St. Andrew in sixth form, I was asked to teach at Wilmer's Girls' School to fill in for somebody who was going on maternity leave. So I did a stint there. I always wanted to teach, so I was very happy to do it. And then after university, I was still interested in teaching, hadn't secured a job yet. And I met somebody who had been teaching at Wilmer's with me. And she said, but we need a PE teacher now. But it was only for a term. But I was so anxious to get back in the classroom, I accepted the job. And I did that term at Wilmer's. At the end of that period now, I was thinking, oh, where do I go from here? And before that, when I accepted the job at Wilmer's, that very night, Mr. Douglas Fortis called me and offered me a permanent job at KC, which would have suited me better. But having given my word to Miss Pinto, I didn't think I should go back on the word. So I said, well, Mr. Fortis, I'm sorry, I can't come because I already accepted a job. So I thought that was the end of it. But at the end of the term, I decided to just call KC just to see what was going on. And I was told, but we're expecting you. We held the job for you. And the job is here waiting, and we're expecting you in January. So that's how I ended up at KC. It was just, I don't know if that's a coincidence or divine intervention, because it was the best thing that ever happened to me. Going to KC, coming to KC really was a wonderful experience, and I would not trade that for anything else. So I ended up there in January of 1970, and I stayed there until 2007.
Okay, so that's 37 years.
Wow.
Yes.
So I'm very familiar with you because you also taught me French. I think I should have started this podcast by saying bonjour.
Bonjour, right?
Ça va?
Oui, ça va.
The only thing else I could ask is how your age and where you live, and I'm not going to go through that.
That number too big to call.
Very, very big.
I live in Kingston, and I now operate a prep school. When I was about to retire from KC, my mother died very unexpectedly. And she was operating a prep school. And it was September. School had just reopened. And it was quite a problem now because parents were sort of worried about what would happen. So I stepped in, but I had to do it from a distance because I was finishing my last year at KC. So I had to be going back and forth.
Okay.
And then I took over fully in 2007. So I'm still there. I'm still at the prep school and going along. So I actually am still in the teaching business.
Yeah.
Teach French there.
Yeah.
To a small, just a beginner's French, and I also teach literature.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that is what I really enjoy, the classroom.
Yeah, yeah. Now, one thing I want to say for everybody who is going to watch this podcast, Miss Douglas, is, people say all the time, especially now I live in the States and the diaspora, about this KC cult. And you
Yeah.
said something, whether it was coincident or ordained, and I want to tell you, nothing about KC is coincident. It was ordained
You
for
coming to
you
there.
to work at Ulmas, and then you call the school and somebody say, well, ma'am, we're expecting you to come because we held this job. That is strict
Yeah.
ordained and just right fit for Kingston College. So
Mhm.
I just want to make that very clear for those who will always want to watch this and talk about that story. That
Yeah.
is very unique. And as we interview others, we're finding so much richness in these stories that nobody knew about. So
Yeah.
that one was truly a highlight.
Mhm.
So I want to ask you, Miss Douglas, because I only know you as well as a French teacher, and then later on you took on the administrative role of vice principal. But
Yeah.
was French always your love?
Oh, yes. Oh, from in school. I had a French teacher who I really just loved and adored. And I think she might have inspired me to pursue that because I also like maths. And I would have thought
Mhm.
that I would have more leaned towards that area, but the French really got me. And I haven't regretted that. I really have enjoyed working with the French departments. Um, the Alliance and the embassy itself have been very, very supportive and helpful. As a matter of fact, I found that the boys used to be jealous at one point of the French students because nothing like that was happening with Spanish.
I
But
agree.
No, that's true.
100%.
yeah,
100%.
That's
and
so true.
they were so
100%.
supportive. There was always something
Ah,
happening in the French, always.
mm.
And it was
Yeah,
always
man.
supported by the Alliance or the embassy. So it was really a wonderful experience for all of us. For the students, for us the teachers, it was just great.
I'm a
Hmm.
testament to that because I actually did Spanish, and I'm not going to share that story just, about the teacher, but all the time we used to say, well, whenever I choose French, right? For the
Yes,
Frenchman, them, it was different. But
yes.
before you go into the next question, Marlon, since we're talking about your experience with Miss Douglas being a teacher, and I having the experience of Miss Douglas as a VP, I said to her earlier before we began that I always share this story about her that I don't think she even remembers, but it was a comparison to Marlon Kennedy. So, Miss Douglas, here's how my connection with you go, right? Because you're leading, right? And I remember, I'm not sure if you're connecting, but I was playing Manning Cup at the time, and the track team used to get two pair of shoes. The track team used to get the spikes, and them used to get the running shoes, where the soccer man them only used to get the football shoes, right? And I remember we stole our shoes from the track and field guy because it was a nice, pretty Adidas them get. And they went to you and they said it was me. And you said, no, it can't be Pete Kennedy because Pete Kennedy didn't come from that household. That's the first story. And I remember you called me the next day. And I somehow carried the shoes back to school, right? And didn't expect you to call me in the office because nobody knew of Pete Kennedy being a thief. And I remember when you took the shoe from me, you kept it private. It wasn't something you made the entire school know about or anybody else in regards to what may have turned out. You know, the school thing where people start saying, oh, yeah, thief. And to me, that was volume. That how you could have said, hey, you did this and you did that. You held it down. You just said, Pete, you know you were wrong, but I had punishment. I couldn't play the next game, right? I had to miss practice. So there were punishments behind it, but you did not put me out into the entire school for others to know that this take place. And the next highlight was me skip school, Miss Douglas, me and Kizran Levy. Remember Kizran Levy, my best friend? Me and
What leaving?
Kizran Levy.
Okay, I remember the name.
Yeah, so Kizran and I, them call him Kizzy. So Kizzy and I now, come from Almantown. So we jump the back fence and we walking up now, come up behind the school. And you were in your white Nissan. Remember that white Nissan you had?
Yeah.
And you pulled up on us.
Famous whiteness and
The
sunny.
famous what? The white Nissan Sunny. And you pulled
Sunny,
up on
yeah.
us again. Here we are. And you asked us where we were going, right? Knowing we were KC boys. And I lied to you. I said to you that I didn't have my vitamins that morning. Because my mother used to give me cod liver. What is it? The cod liver,
Olive oil.
the cod liver oil.
Olive
And
oil
she
Cod liver
gave me,
oil.
tablets.
yes.
Yeah.
and all these things. And that morning I did leave it, right? But that wasn't the reason I was going home. And I remember you took me to the office again and you said, Pete, trust me, man. I just want you to just look at the example of your brother. And that was the first time you mentioned him. You said, Marlon wouldn't have done this. So I don't know what is it that you're doing, but I need you to get your act together. But if anything were to happen again, trust me, you're not going to like it. And I tell people that all the time that, Miss Douglas, you have had an impact on my heart just for those two events that you've had as a young man in regards to how you bring back leadership, bring back love, and bring back guidance. And I want to say to you, after how many years you've never heard this out of my mouth, I thank you and I appreciate you.
I am happy that I did have that impact, but I don't remember this incident, neither of them at all. I remember several incidents like that, you know, but I don't remember that particular one.
That's
But
fine because there's so many boys I can probably
so many,
imagine you catch
so
over the
many,
fence.
so many going over the fence.
All
And
right,
I'm just glad that you and I didn't wear the same size shoes. So my shoes were safe. I'm good with that. All right, so Miss Douglas, just continuing with your time at KC. So what was it like? If you just could run us through that story when you started and your journey and time at KC, what were your most impressionable moments, good times, bad times, you know? What was it like when you went there under the invite of the great Douglas Forrest?
Under the what?
Invitation of Douglas Forrest when he extended for you to come to work at KC.
Yes. Okay. It was difficult for me at first. I was not accustomed to dealing with boys. I came from a family of 5 girls and 1 boy.
Mm.
And so I didn't really understand boys very well. I went to an all-girls school. I taught at an all-girls school. So it was hard for me to adjust at the beginning. Eventually, though, I understood. And Mr. Bruce, I remember, Mr. Bruce is the vice principal at Melbourne. And Mr. Bruce did a lot to make me understand how I should really cope with these boys. One of the difficulties I had, it was the age of miniskirt. And that was an issue, that was a problem. That was every staircase you go, you find a crowd below waiting to see you come down.
Yeah, I remember that.
And,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
there was the issue of the mirror on the shoes. I don't know you boys knew about all
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
So that was difficult. And I realized after a while that, look, these are boys and they're going to be curious. You can't stop that. So that's not the way to deal with it. It's not to get them to stop. It is to prevent it from happening. So I said, you know something, I had never seen it done in KC before. But I said, I'm going to try and wear pantsuits instead. And I did. And it really caught on. Everybody started to wear that attire. Everybody started wearing pantsuits. And that just eliminated the problem. So the whole idea of, you know, trying to stop the boys from what was probably natural for them didn't work. And then also, I remember, I didn't know that the boys at sports was so, I hated sports, hated PE when I was at school. I mean, I did everything to avoid PE class.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, when I was at St. Andrew, PE was compulsory up to upper 6th. So there was no way to escape. We also had to have, we had to do a sport after school. It was compulsory 1 day a week. And I had to do hockey, and I'm telling you, I dreaded those days, but I got through them eventually. And so the idea of sports, I didn't really take to it. Surprisingly, I got very involved in the administration of sports when I came to KC because I got roped in. For sport was so important at KC that you just had to be a part of it. So I did the administrative part, and I understood then that boys need that sort of exercise, and playing was a natural part for them. I tried to stop it when I first came there because I felt they must be neat and they mustn't be sweaty and they must come back in the classroom. But as I said, I learned after a while that this is important for them. They need to use up this energy. And so we had to find a compromise and work with both. So there were things that, another thing I found difficult to accept was the caning. I couldn't take it at all. I remember I used to cry when the boys were getting candy. I felt so sorry for them.
Mhm.
And then I realized that they weren't sorry for themselves at all. They made a joke of it. So I thought they got a big thing then for them. It was quite a production for them.
Yeah.
And
Because
it's a
you
joke of
saw
it and we
repeated
talk about it.
repeated
Huh? Were you in the era of
because
feeling?
you saw repeated offenders.
Yeah, man. And
Because you
they
saw repeated
almost enjoy
offenders.
it because
Yeah, yeah.
they didn't make a big, they weren't upset by it. And by the next day, another again, I
Hmm.
learned about boys, different from girls. You'd reprimand a boy today, and tomorrow he's back with good friends again. That was so different from when you were dealing with the girls. The girls would have
Hmm.
you up and they would, be very nasty about it, but the boys were so different. They were so nice to handle.
Hmm.
So, the caning thing, after a while, I got adjusted to it and I realized that it wasn't hurting them. And they were making up. I remember one day, and they get caning for the slightest thing, It don't have to be something serious. One day, Mr. Bruce, the bell went and the boys were still playing. And somebody said, Bruce, I come. And he wanted to know who said it. Of course, nobody going to say who said it. So he decided to change the entire second form from 2A right down to 2G. Everybody get caning. He went from class, he was
Ooh.
sweating, he was tired. So the last class never get much. But anyway, everybody was to get caning that day. But it almost became funny. I mean, boys talk about it today with a
Yeah.
relish, they laugh at it, and it's almost as if you didn't get caning, you're not really a true KC
A
boy. You
joke
must
is,
at
yeah.
least at one time. So you had Mr. Bruce and you had Mr. Brian. They used to say you got to get Bruce's patty and cane juice because the cane is cane juice, and you got to get Mr. Bruce for the Bruce's patty. I don't even knew Bruce's patty at the time. Bruce's patty was the most popular patty before tasty.
Mhm.
So they
Okay.
made a pun out of that, Bruce's patty. So those
Hmm.
were some of the things that I found at first difficult to deal with, but as I said, it became normal after a while. I was very impressed with the way the staff operated, the relationship between the staff. It was so different. It was so normal. I mean, coming from another school, I found that there was a kind of hierarchy in that school that didn't exist at KC. It was like everybody was on one level. It doesn't matter how long you had been there or where you had just come. And so as a newcomer, I was given the opportunity to do what I was able to do to contribute. There was no, restriction at all because of the fact that I was sort of new.
Mhm.
And that was really, really surprising to me. And it allowed me, therefore, to do what I felt was needed. Um, in no time, I came there in 70, and by 71, I was being asked to undertake a part of the timetable. And then by about 73 or 74, I was given the responsibility for the entire thing, making the timetable. And that was unusual, I thought, that I could have been entrusted with something so important at such a young stage of my career there. And I continued with that until the year I left, doing the timetable. And then I got involved in um, placing the students in different classes and in houses. And I got involved in a lot of the administration. But what I remember very well was the things that I did outside of the administration classroom. The one that stands out the most, of course, is the Mayfair.
Oh,
It was
Oh
a big,
yes.
big undertaking and it was
Oh
really
yes.
yeah.
successful. But
Yes.
it was successful because of the people that we had before that. When we ever had a function, it was a case of who would want to volunteer to serve. And I don't think that worked very well because people who are anxious to help and who are willing to help are not necessarily ones who are skilled to do the best job.
Mhm. Yes.
Hmm.
So we decided that at the Mayfair, we would allow anybody who wanted to contribute would be allowed to, but the people who would head the different sections, we handpicked those people. And I think that was what made it so
Hmm.
successful. So it went on for a number of years. And
Yes.
then it
Yes.
became almost unmanageable because of the crowd. And I
Yes.
got nervous about it and
Yeah.
felt that we were taking a chance and we should not continue. So we stopped it. Recently, somebody tried to revive it, but I don't think we'll come back the same it was then. Things have
It will
changed.
never be. It will never
No,
be. It
you
will
have to do a different approach.
Yeah.
never.
But that was one of the big things I
Yeah.
remember being involved in. You had the French Drama Festival, which was also very exciting. And there are boys who still talk about their part in that activity. You had the fire, which caused us
Oh,
to
yes.
this
Mhm.
tag drive. That was a
Mhm.
big thing as well that I was involved in,
Yeah.
where the students were sent all over the island to collect funds to help to fix back the school after the fire. There were lots of
And you're
events.
and you're speaking about the fire with the pavilion at case at Melbourne.
No, no, not that one. The big
Not that
fire,
one.
was it 77? The one at
Oh, okay.
North Street where the whole administrative block and a lot of the classrooms, the whole of that middle section there, a lot of the buildings were destroyed.
Oh, okay.
It
At
was
North Street?
North Street, yeah.
Oh,
The
wow.
big thing, big thing. And
And what year did that happen, Miss Douglas?
I think it's 77,
Oh, 77.
I
Okay.
remember rightly.
Okay.
And it brought, what was this? It brought together people. It was really a good experience because old boys, parents, teachers, everybody came together. As a matter of fact, other schools joined. All the schools gave us their school bus to use to take the children out in the countryside to beg for funds. And so it really was a good experience. It
Nice.
really solid. It unified the whole family, whole KC family. So a little bad event, some good came out of it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
First time hearing of that fire as well. That's never heard of that one before.
So what was the transition like when you moved to become vice principal?
Well, I had acted in the role long before. I mean, I had acted very early in my career when Mr. Bruce went on leave and I filled in for him. So when I eventually got it on a long-term basis, I had had the experience before. So it wasn't new to me. Also, I was coming on as having been the coordinator for grade 7. And so that gave me some, experience and exposure as to how to handle that sort of duty. So, and by then, I had sort of established myself as a fixture at KC, as somebody who had been there and a senior person. So it wasn't difficult, therefore, for the boys to see me in that role and to cooperate. And they did cooperate. I mean, there were people who stepped out of line, but generally speaking, they were very cooperative. And we established some great friendships from then, which still exist today. I still am in touch with many of them, and we get along still very well.
Were you vice principal for both campuses or just one?
For one, at a
Okay.
time. At a time, I was at all both campuses, but not
Okay.
at the same time.
Okay.
But I did at the same time. At one point, when I was asked to act, I didn't want to do it because I didn't want to give up my classes that I had been teaching, because I tended to take my classes from first form right up. I followed them right through, and I didn't want to give it up. So I told them I wouldn't do it, and then we struck a compromise. And I said, okay, I would do the vice principalship on one shift and teach on the other shift. So although it was difficult in terms of, the volume of the work, I enjoyed it. And that's what I wanted. I didn't want to stop the teaching. And so I did both. So I was on one campus teaching and I was on the other campus as vice principal. But generally, it was one or the other.
Were there any major differences between vice principal at Melbourne and vice principal at North Street?
Yes, vast. At the time, I don't know what it's like now, but there was a big, I don't know what you call it. I don't say jealous. I don't know what it is. But we were not united. When I first started teaching at KC, and I met a KC old boy, and I said, I'm teaching at KC. He said, you teach at KC? No, we don't know. No, sir. You sure it's KC? No, I don't know you. Yeah, man. When you started, I told him. But I supposed to know you that. Oh, you mean Melbourne? I thought you said KC. It was not seen as KC.
Yeah.
Melbourne was seen as they said, like you used to call it, colonial outpost. And there was a sort of attitude, especially at Melbourne, about like a suspicion of North Street. And so people would be almost afraid. When I started to assign teachers, and I said, look, I want this person to move from this campus. It was a problem because people afraid to go North Street and no, sir, nobody. And there was that division. I don't know if it still exists. I hope not. We tried a lot of things to get people together. And at one point I said, every head of department must teach a first form because you need to know. You need to know what you deal with at the beginning. And you can know how to plan your department to get to where you want them to get. And some people objected strong. Some complied, some objected. People just did not want to go. They didn't see it as a cohesive unit. They didn't, I don't know why. But as I said, I hope that it was breaking down. By the time I left, it wasn't as strong as it was when I first started. So I think so. But the actual vice principal job wasn't any different. I mean, different in the sense that when you're dealing with the older boys, you have to use a different kind of strategy than when you're using the younger ones. Otherwise, it was more or less similar.
Got it.
Were there any students that stood out or any particular event? Because I know you probably had so many memorable moments, but were there any student or group of students that stuck in the memory, and why? And any events of sort?
I don't want to pick out any particular group because there's always an argument as to which class I like best and which one my favorite, and ones are always arguing. But there were classes that I had, I was in control of for 5 years. And those were very special because I really got to know them and we did a lot together. There were many individuals that I remember so well, mostly for the fact that they were troublesome, lots of them. But those are the ones you remember fondly. They were really, but they were also outstanding students. I suppose Vassiani might have been the one that I remember best.
Stephen
Vassiani, he was so outstanding. I remember when I first taught him in first form, he didn't have to open his mouth to stand out as an outstanding student. He just, his whole approach was so mature and he was really very bright. And he continued like that right through school. I guess he might have been the most outstanding student I've taught in terms of academic achievements. But there were many others. I mean, there were so many. Yeah, the athletes. I remember T.C. Campbell, he was like a hero. When T.C. came to Melbourne, oh my God, everybody run out. All little children, all the boys want to touch him and talk to him. And I'm happy that I had the experience of seeing KC perform on the track in those 70s when it was just like magic. I mean, when you go to the stadium, you don't got to know who's going to win. You got to see who's going to come second because you know it is coming. And even the athletes themselves, they tell you when they line up and they look and they see a purple or white shirt beside them, right away they feel intimidated because KC was so on top during those years. The first year KC lost champs, I remember big men weep, and it was traumatic because they had been born. From they were born, they heard about KC winning all their life. And they come now to the point where they went to cheer for and KC lost that year. It was traumatic. It was really traumatic that year.
Wow.
But it was really a wonderful experience to be a part of something like that. To be a part of winning. They're winning everything. They're winning at football, they're winning in swimming, they're winning at, and it was amazing. We never had a pool then, and they were winning in swimming championships.
I remember that one.
They were doing that. The cadets were winning competition. It was amazing. It's really amazing to see what the school has accomplished over the years. And one of the questions you asked is what I'd like to see happen in the future. And I hope that they never lose that spirit.
Yes.
I really hope that that is something that I don't care if they don't win any competition.
Mm-hmm.
That spirit that KC has, which people can't define, people can't
Come on now.
understand it. This is what they talk about, a cult, but it's a
Yes.
It is.
and I think that
It
people
is.
envy it. I think
Yes.
that's why they say it's a cult.
That's why they say it's KC against the entire island, and I tell a man say KC preparing for so much things, you know, man, because there's no other school in the island I think
With
people
that
talk
spirit.
about like KC.
I remember one year, when I was being honored at function with Michael Manley by the KC Road Boys. And Michael Manley's speech was about that. And he said, if people in Jamaica felt about Jamaica the way KC boys feel about their school, think of where we'd be today. Because it is something that is just ingrained in them. It's just something that they have. People ask me if there's something that we do to the children. What if it's water? We give them especially something in the water that they drink. Why is it that as they enter KC,
Yeah.
I remember a boy who came to KC in sixth form from Wolmer's. And by the following week, he had painted his room purple. And the mother can't understand what is this thing? Why is it that this thing has taken over her son? Till eventually she became a part of it. Because it's just infectious. It's just something that you just can't help.
Yes.
But that is what I really, really, really would wish for the school. That the spirit remains beyond for the next 100 years. Because it is what makes us different. And it's what makes us so successful and so much envy of others, I think.
Yeah. Can I share? I was speaking to
No, I must say, Miss Douglas, you're absolutely right. The spirit is still there, right? I'm a part of the KC Old Boy Association of Florida, the Florida chapter, and we will definitely keeping that spirit going. We're supporting the initiatives of the boys. It is in me. As I told you, my two boys don't go to, they don't live in the island, but you know they can't tell in no other school,
They're
but
still a part of it.
college, they are still a part of it.
Right.
And my nieces who have never gone to the school, they tell you there's no other school but KC. So
let me tell
that
you-
spirit
Let me
is
tell
just
you,
there.
the female support is amazing, recently. It
overwhelming.
wasn't so strong when I was there.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of support from the women.
Yeah.
Whether they are mothers or girlfriends or whatever, they
Yeah.
really give a lot of support. You would think that case a poet school.
You would think so. You would think so.
But
brother,
but
you
can I
said something.
can I share a story? Yesterday, I was speaking to a couple friends of mine, and just to speak about KC, and I was relating to them that I was having lunch once in the JDF, and I sat beside a colonel, and he said, this colonel went to Meadowbrook, and the colonel said, Marlon, let me tell you something. He has some guys from his community where him know, say, his mind them are rough. And them go KC. And him say, Marlon, when them man they go up on the ball field and put on the purple and white jersey, all of a sudden them man they start playing like Pele. Where the money come from? Him not understand it. Him say when they give them all the cricket ball, the man them a bowl like Michael Holding. Once them put on something for Kingston College, man says a different mindset they have.
Because
And one of the things I explain to my friends is that when you go to KC and you go at least 5 years at KC, from my time, we won Manning Cup in 1986. Never won it until 30 years after, which was the other day. But from my time at KC, every year we won something. School challenge quiz, hockey, table tennis, basketball, something. So there was something to celebrate. The only thing we never won was champs. So when I see KC not winning, that's what I saw when I was at KC. But I understand, as you said, Madam Douglas, for those who cry when MCKC come second or anything less than first. But it is just a school spirit. There's nothing like it.
Well, I don't think it affects them the same way now. But it's just that first year we're losing. That was what was really shocking. The first time ever in how many years. But one of the things again that I found really, really amazing about KC was the input of the old boys. Marlon and Pete, on a Saturday. Well, no, let's go in the week. When school is dismissed. You see the cars rolling in, and the track coaches, and the cadet master, and the school challenge coach, and the choir master, and
Wow, coach.
everybody is all KC old boys,
Yep.
and they're all giving it voluntarily. It was amazing. The people who come and work with the track team, not all of them were qualified or talented to coach, but one would say, I will supply the oranges for them when they finish training. One would just come and just encourage and say, young man, I see you improving, man, keep it up. One would say, I will drop home these after training. It was just such a wonderful family kind of atmosphere. And I don't know what happens today. I know that there are old boys still contributing. I don't know if it happens at the same extent because things are different today. People are busy and maybe not able to give as much time. But I think the principle still exists. And that was one of the things that really impressed me about the school.
It does. And I can tell you it still happens today at a totally different level and a little bit more structure to it. So I can tell you it still does happen. Still does happen.
Yeah, I agree.
But even the students, I had a student, Rafik Shaw. Rafik was very good at maths.
Yes, I remember that name.
Rafik come on a Saturday and teach a class, and the children would contribute a small amount. Of course, some of them, I remember one child tried crawl out to the class before the end to get away from which was, not nice. But from those days, Rafik has been supporting the program, and I think he still is doing it. And he was really gifted, really amazing how he used to do. But Rafik was one of those students who was so sold on KC. When it's time for Manning Cup or whatever, don't expect to see my Rafik in a class. Rafik can bicycle, ride up and down and ring the bell, wave the flag. But by the next day, Rafik is back there. He has done his work. He's right on top of it. So it wasn't really preventing him from doing well. But he was one of those who showed that kind of spirit, that kind of loyalty, that kind of love that so many others have and show. But he stood out in my mind. Many others.
Wow.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that, Ms. Douglas. Thank you.
I remember a boy, when I talk about the school spirit, it was near it was Champs time, and SBA is due. And the boy don't bring in the SBA. It was his chemistry SBA. Mrs. Branch came and complained that she can't get the work from this boy. I warned him, I told him to bring it. And the next day I give him an ultimatum, bring the SBA. Next day he can't be found, but he's at school. People have seen him and I can't find him anywhere. I walk up and down, I can't find him. Eventually I caught up with him. He's up and down the place selling flags. He don't bring in the SBA. I said, so where's the SBA? He looked at me and he said, he stammered. How we expect him to bring the flag? How the flag would hold if him to bring the SBA? I said, this guy's crazy. He has an exam to do. The SBA is a part of it. And he said, bringing the flag is more important than the SBA. But that's the kind of spirit that I had. He don't pay me any mind at all. I remember that so well.
Oh, the flag I go hold.
Yeah, how the flag I go hold. It's like how the SB I go hold it up. How the flag I go hold.
Yes, when the SBA flag can't hold and the flag is obviously more important. So SBA have to wait.
KC, Fortis to the world, we say. Oh, man.
Right, well, thank you very much, Ms. Douglas.
man.
We really appreciate your time. And one of the things we ask our guests before they leave is just for them to, KC's 100 this year, to wish the school 100 and also happy birthday, wish the school 100 years. And also any parting words of encouragement or motivation to the current student body, the parents, the teachers, the administrators, coaches, supporters, and even those that have passed through the noble institution, just to hear their final words from you, Madam Douglas.
Well, I'm very proud. I really am proud to know that I was a part of this experience. And I really want to wish this all the very best for the next 100 years. We won't be around, but I would like to think that they will continue to build on this spirit and success because they have been successful in so many areas. I would like to see them continue with the academics and the clubs, etc. I want to commend the teachers who are a big part of this experience, a big part of the success, and of course the old boys. I mean, the old boys play a really important role. Even if they're not there on spot, they're very influenced. The way they influence the school, I think, is so important. I hope that will continue. And I really hope that I said that the parents too. The parents play another big part. And recently I've noticed that, as I said before, the mothers have been really coming on board
Oh,
in
yes.
a big way.
Yeah.
And so what I really wish for the school, though, is that the spirit continues to grow. And that at the end of the next 100 years, we can look back and think that we did well. We did as well as we did for these 100 years. It's a continuing experience, and I really wish them all the best. Principal, staff, teachers, parents, students themselves, old boys. Thank you all for what you have done for the last 100 years, and continue, those who take over, to do the same or better for the next 100 years. Okay.
Wow.
So we won't be around to see it, but we can dream of it.
We can
We will
dream of
feel it. We will feel it,
Yes.
Madam Douglas. We will
Yes,
feel
yes,
it.
yes,
We will
yes,
feel
yes,
it.
yes, yes.
So,
Well,
Pete,
guys, there you have heard it from the legend herself, the teacher to my brother, the vice principal to me, Ms Helen Douglas. I would say, man, I'm lost for words. We could sit here and
icon.
listen for hours and hours and hours and hours, but I can tell you, I will be telling about that story about the flag and the SBA, okay? Make sure
Definitely.
you carry the SBA with
Yeah.
you to school. That's a good one, Miss Douglas. Really appreciate it. But we want to say, on behalf of the entire KC body from 1925 and beyond, for everyone who is involved, for everybody you've touched on, for those you've heard and the old boys who've talked, we want to say thank you. And what we normally do, my brother, as KC old boys, is we would say,
Fortis,
Cadere,
Cadere, CEDRE,
non
non-Potest.
Potest.
The
The
brave may
brave may
fall,
fall,
But
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 never
never
yield.
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 Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Miss
you.
Douglas. You're
And thank you
welcome.
for having me.
It was a pleasure.
It was a pleasure.